My guest today is Iliza Shlesinger, comedian and writer. You've probably seen Iliza's hilarious stand-up specials on Netflix or her movie Good on Paper that came out last year that my fiance Paul happened to produce. So I was really excited to have a conversation with Iliza and see what she's like off stage. Today we talk about comedy in the era of cancel culture, the ups and downs of being a comedian, and so much more. Enjoy. Did I meet you in a comedy club ever or no?
No.
And you starred in Good on Paper, which did really well on Netflix.
Yeah, I wrote it. It all came from a general meeting with Paul in Boston several years ago. And, you don't get very many yeses, like concrete yeses in this business. And even when he gave me yes, I was like, okay. And then lo and behold, we made it happen.
It's amazing. I know. And he's a real estate developer by trade, but only he's produced 12 movies as a side hustle, which is funny. And he's doing more now. So
does it count as a side hustle if you've done 12? Like, is it on the side?
I mean, I am a beauty influencer on the side now,
I've seen.
and it's really on the side. Like, I have another whole business that's not that because I don't wear makeup, as you could see at this time.
I wrestle with that. I was like, am I putting on makeup for a podcast? And I've been not doing it because chances are you and I were both doing something before this. Also, like, I always come back to, like, what are we doing here? Like, am I trying to convince the world that I have like a flawless Instagram tune face? Like, I don't care who's turned on by it.
You see me, I have no makeup. Yeah, I mean, I want to look fresh, and this might get posted on social, but I'm out here. I don't care either. I'm the same exact way. I was just saying in a rant that I am not a vain person, and I would like to be slightly more vain. So then when shit goes sideways, I could at least look at my face and tell myself what's wrong because no one else is going to tell me. But that's for another day.
No one else will ever say, especially in LA, no one else will ever tell you what's wrong. I called my agent. I'm like, am I weird looking? Is that why I didn't get it? They're like, no, they love you. I'm like, oh, I love how much they love you. But I've seen your, on TikTok, or is it Instagram Reels? You're like, I'm calling them like 6-second beauty reviews. You're like, I got this at Walgreens. Crap. Next thing. I got this. This is all May. I have $1 billion. This is $1. I love it. Next thing. Like, it's super lo-fi. And like, I'm sure people are sitting there like writing down.
I know. No, everyone's like, not me at CVS, ... It's really fun. I enjoy it. I didn't know how to do my makeup before January 1st. I decided to learn about it, and I just did this weird thing, and now it's a thing. It's like a thing. Okay, so you're in Martha's Vineyard. You live in LA, and and reading about you, and I know who you are. I don't know how much I know who you are because of Paul, and then you now being on my radar, and then me following you on Instagram. Because it's funny. I was talking to Topher Grace the other day about like levels of fame.
Him.
He's the best. Levels of fame where you're famous, but like you still can have a life and you can go out and you're like, are you niche? I'm niche. Like, so I was wondering if, like, how famous are you? What is your life in LA? And let's do LA, and then let's do the rest of the country. Like, how on a 1 to 10, if Madonna's a 10, or if Tom Cruise is a 10, or Kim Kardashian's a 10, and your high school gym teacher is a 0, how famous are you in your mind? Like, with reality, like people coming up to you or saying or saying I saw your Netflix special, or all that stuff.
I think if you have to ask how famous are you, it kind of answers the question. And I also think there's famous within certain groups. Like, you were on Real Housewives, but you're a businesswoman, so that tends to permeate other circles that a woman with like a bullshit fashion line may not. You
also, but yeah, you've been in movies, you're in a Netflix special, you're on TV. So I'm asking you, like, at a food fair, if you go to a mall, are you going to be bothered, or you can have no incidents?
Bothered isn't the word, but people come up to you. I mean, I'm not going to list off like in the past 24 hours who all, but it's usually a girl will just be like, are you? And I'll be like, it's me. And then they get excited. Or a dude will be like, oh, do you know these 3 other male comics? Awesome. It happens, but you have to be at a serious level of fame for it to actually be a hassle. Like,
right.
And there are people that call like paparazzi on themselves. It's never been a bother. Has it been creepy at times? Sure. But it's never like, please, my family and I just want to eat at Olive Garden in privacy.
Oh.
Please.
So it's a nice level. So you have a nice, like, it's a little sizzle, but you could have your own life with your husband and have him not be annoyed if you're walking through an airport.
Yeah, there's no annoyance, because also, I don't know, I think people forget in this day and age, like, especially as a stand-up, as a performer, like, you have nothing without your fans. Yes. This isn't based on anything else. This isn't like you put money in the market and that's what did it. Like, you should be respectful of the fact that these people take time and money out of their lives to support your selfish art. You know, so you always give them time of day.
Absolutely. Why did you say selfish art?
Because stand up is this year. If you're a performer, you know, this comes from a place of like, hey, I need you to look at me and hear what I'm saying. It's not like I'm a doctor or I'm doing humanitarian aid work.
I got it. Okay.
You know,
Okay.
like at the end of the night, it's stand up.
So do you feel like you're a comedian first and foremost, and that was what you wanted to be, or you saw the whole board and you wanted to do that, and you wanted to write and you wanted to be in movies? Like, what was the trajectory in your mind?
I was always going to be funny for a living. And when you grow up somewhere like Dallas, Texas, like there's no trajectory because there's no path. It's like, oh, I'll just be on Saturday Night Live like everybody.
Right.
You're unaware of all the avenues, you know, and of course the internet didn't exist back then, which is so, I'm loath to say. And so when I started doing stand-up, that I got the most energy from doing it that way. And then, you know, you audition for stuff, but there are people who put in 10,000 hours and really work at auditioning, and I'm putting in that time in stand up and it's leading to its own thing. So I always wanted to be funny for a living. And sometimes that's in stand up. Sometimes it's in a movie. Sometimes it's in writing. You know, as an artist, you just want to keep creating and affecting people. And I don't know that our world allows for that understanding sometimes, but yeah.
And your trajectory was getting up on stage in Dallas at like open mic nights and taking No.
I went to school in Boston and I went to film school like everybody else, like every intern in your office. And I got to LA and I started doing it there. And I started in like 2005 with a real job. Like I had an office job. I was someone's terrible assistant. But this is something, you know, you talk about side hustles that I would go and do at night. And then one day I called my mom and I said, I need to borrow $1,000 so I can purchase a computer. And I'm going to try this full time. And it worked out. And so here we are at 39.
So you got the hit, you liked it, and you started doing it like going every night and then traveling and then doing that whole circuit.
Yeah. I mean, people always ask advice. Like you got to just do it. It's not like unlike being an entrepreneur, like you have to, or being a bodybuilder, like you have to just do it.
It's being somebody who's in a kitchen actually, because you have to make a recipe, screw it up, do it again. Like you have to keep going. It's repetition and keep going through and trying different ways. It's interesting.
My husband's a chef and you know, so my husband's a chef. So we initially bonded over the fact that we both, you know, work at night, but I don't think people understand when you're building something, like it is something that it wakes you up at night. You love it so much, even when it's the most painful, and you just keep going. And it's not even about if people encourage you or they're shitty to you. It's only what matters is the voice in your head, and just going and taking every opportunity. And then when you get rejected, writing a movie in your off time, writing a book.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if everybody listening realizes how insanely competitive and crowded it is, because I've met so many successful comedians, whether it's Kim Whitley or Sherrod Smalls or, you know, a lot of people who have popped off, but not like, you know, to like Robin Williams level. I mean, I know Kevin Nealon, I know Chris Rock. For some reason, I know a lot of the comedy people. I'm attracted to that. I took classes in Groundlings. I know Amy Schumer. Like, I don't know why I've always gravitated towards the comedy space. I mean, probably because as a kid, I was watching, you know, Eddie Murphy and watching Richard Pryor. And like, I watched all of it, the old school Bill Cosby. So I'm aware of it, but it's so competitive. And I did it one time. Paul got a camera crew because we were thinking of doing, what would I do for an NFT that like no one would ever be able to see? And I said, I'll go up and do stand up, which was like, why did I just say that out loud? And I did it at New York Comedy Club 10 days later after calling some of these people that I told you about, like Bridget Everett, calling Kathy Griffin. I called Ellen to ask like what tips everybody had. And each person had very different tips. Like no two were the same. And it was like I was crowdsourcing to figure out how I would do it. I think it was Kim Whitley or Kevin. I think it was Kim Whitley who decided or asked me like, what was my style? Like she was like, or Kevin might have asked that, but she said, you rant. Like you just are aggravated about something. You need to say it. And I was talking to Kevin Nealon about how he is more like it's a long story that just keeps going on and that builds up. And so I had never thought of that. I wanted to say, like, A, what is your style? And second of all, I did fairly, like, people laughed. It wasn't a bomb at all. Like, it was on a 1 to 10, it was probably a 6, you know, like 0 being no one laughing to 10, like being cocked, like crazy raucous laughter. But I didn't get any sort of like, wow, I'd survived that. And that was good. And I need to do that again. I didn't have that for some reason. I felt that it was like, that's a lot, obviously, to be sitting there and like your goal is to get fed from these people. And if they don't feed you, like you're hungry or like you didn't get what you needed. And I found that to be really interesting. I want to know what you think about that. And that, like, that thought that I felt.
I mean, there's what you're talking. I mean, these are themes, but it's also, you know, I've been doing it almost 20 years. So I just shot my 6th Netflix special, and that comes out on October 11th, the same day as my book. We did do it on purpose.
Oh, that's amazing. So what are they called, first of all?
Well, the special is called Hot Forever, and the book is called All Things Aside. And that All Things Aside is a collection of personal essays. It's my 2nd book, and I just figured at 39, I just had a baby. The book's not about having a baby, but it's a collection of essays, just sort of life as I see it now, just as a woman, just my own lens. And Hot Forever is not unlike that, you know, but it's stand up. And at this level, there's a couple things, you know, you built up a reputation, you have a brand. I want to make sure that everybody who comes to my show, they're always leaving uplifted, even though we're calling out some major inconvenient truths about our society and things like that. And, you know, I also like to get into the idea that we tend to get angry when women have a very strong opinion. We only call women bossy or opinionated, you know, and I reject all of that. I'm like, you've got something to say, you back it up with intelligence and comedy, and men will want to listen to that as well. And so that's what my stand-up is. You know, there are rants at times. It comes from a very specific point of view. I think it's its own unique thing. And it's hyper energetic. The feedback that I get is, it's less about how I see it, more about people see it. People leave feeling seen. And I think I do stand up to feel seen and feel heard. And I always kind of want to take up for people who maybe don't feel they have the license to say something. You always have to wrap your agenda with humor, any lessons, any morals, because I think the stakes are too high in our society to not be saying something when you have a microphone and say 3,500 people in an arena in Ottawa. You got to say something. So that'll be Friday.
Does it feel strange to you? Like, it's funny because I saw Amy Schumer in the Hamptons at this bizarre event that I was texting her about afterwards because it was crazy. And I can't believe some of the situations you guys get yourselves into where you have to perform. She was performing effectively on an airstrip, like with like at an airport in the woods. So
she probably got so much money. I have played, I do a lot of shows for our troops. So like I've done a lot of USO. Right. So it's 3 p.m. You are playing for 100 troops plus the Afghan troops on a deck at a fob. Right. And the sun is hot. You are playing, I shot Elder Millennial, one of my specials, on an aircraft carrier. I did stand up in Kathy Hilton's backyard recently. Like, the check clears, we go.
No. Exactly. And I texted her, I can't imagine. There has to be, if you didn't get paid X, I said, it wasn't worth it. They were moving large pieces of furniture in front of me while she's performing. Like 50 miles away.
No respect.
50 miles away. They put us so far from her that if I was on fire, Amy Schumer wouldn't have been able to see me, so much less hear my laughter. Like, let's put the comedian on an island. Oh, yeah. So they can't hear us laugh or engage. And an airstrip.
No respect given to stand-up. It's basically like at an event, they're like, we'll do the eulogy and then we'll put up the comedian.
Right.
Like, it doesn't even matter how famous you are or if you're a man or a woman. I did a corporate event one time. I don't remember the name of the company. It was some company that you've never heard of. Right. It was in Vegas, and it was so much money. And it was all the different branches of the company from all over the world. Right. And I'm up there and I start talking and a band just starts playing over me. And I was like, you know what? It's your time, and whatever you guys want, let's get the show started. Like, you can't control these things. You're just like, I mean, some gigs, it's just, you kind of go on autopilot. You're like, I'm going to hit my marks. I'm going to finish these jokes. I might do some crowd work, and time is up. I will see you at the bank.
And thick skin, peace out. Don't give a good fuck. Even if these 500 people thought you sucked because you were set up so for failure.
I guarantee it's not even that you suck. It's that they didn't even know you were there. Or we have fun.
Well, that's better.
Well, you always have to remember, too, never negate the fact that there are people who can hear you, who are having fun. And so what you don't want to do is be like, this sucks. You guys aren't even listening. Because the 20 people in front are like, well, don't we count, you know? So again, it's all about user experience. I want the audience to have, from the playlist I put together to the last meet and greet, like I want people to know that I respect their money and their time and that we're putting on a real show. I put on, like, I don't ever drink before a show. I come out there, I do my full time. A lot of comics don't, you know, or it's a hassle. I never want people to feel that I don't respect that they've made that effort, you know?
Yeah. And are you able to turn it off, or all day anything that's funny gets written down in that book? Anything all day that it's funny that you think about, you have to write it down because it's part of it.
Yeah, but it's not this like compulsory thing where you're just like, I'm sorry, Mr. President, please, I need to write this thing down about
right.
Excel.
No, I get
it. But you have it, you know, you've got little bits of paper, you've got thoughts, and sometimes it goes in the iPhone. And then there are weeks that go by where nothing gets written down. Like I'm a big believer in like periods of intake. Sometimes you just have to exist as an entity on this planet and just, if it hits you, let it breathe, or just be a person. It's gonna, I mean, I go up enough that like, you're always working on something. I do all my writing on stage. I don't sit at a computer and write it out. So
wait, what does that mean?
Like I write jokes, I write them as I say them. I go on stage and I just talk about a thing, or I'll think of a tag, or I'll improvise off of that. And then I'll remember what I said. And that becomes the act. I don't sit at a computer and think like, what would be funny, and write it out.
Oh, right. That makes sense. You're like free associating and improvising, and then you structure it afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, you have jokes and, you know, but that's like I was saying, like every joke is a little different each time. And sometimes an audience give you something, sometimes they don't. And I believe what works always sticks. So it's all completely memorized. Nothing's written down. That's just me.
What I think is interesting is when I was doing this that one time, and it's something I've always wanted to do. Like it was just something that bothered me because I'm not the person that wants to do something and then is afraid to do it. So that was part of the reason that I did it. And everyone said, oh, I'd be great at that, or I want to do that. Like every person, it's real. And it's everyone. That would be irritating if I were, you know what I mean? Because my Matt Klarberg and Barry Klarberg, my business managers at the time, were like, oh yeah, no, I'd be great. Everyone says I'd be great. Because then when I teach my class, I'm like, okay, so get up and fucking do it too. Like, because that weekend,
it's always men that are like, I'd be great at that.
Yeah, because you did a bat mitzvah speech that was good last year, and frankly, only 4 of the jokes were good. But and that week, I had a week of being you, because that one week I was like, well, I'm the one who's gonna fucking get up in the real comedy club in a pandemic when people are 6 feet away in masks, and there only were allowed to be 15 people the first day they opened up at the New York Comedy Club. And so get up too, make me feel better. Because then I'll feel like, because they made it like what I was doing that week wasn't a thing. So I thought that was interesting, but more important than my stupid experience, that everyone thinks they could do it. And forget whether someone could be good or not, but why is everyone afraid to stand up and like, why is it so scary? What is so scary? Everyone makes fools of themselves every day. Like, why is that so scary? Why is it dying is easy, comedy is hard?
Public speaking, obviously, everyone knows, is like the number one fear. Nobody wants to be ridiculed. Nobody wants to be judged. Nobody wants to be laughed at in a bad way. Nobody wants to be embarrassed, and nobody wants to be vulnerable. It is an incredibly vulnerable thing. And so that's like laying all of your fears and insecurities bare. And the beauty of it is saying, please laugh at me, because when they're laughing with you, I always say that people laugh at something for 2 reasons. Either they totally get it and they feel you, or they're like, that's so weird. What are you talking about? And I believe that the comedy gods reward vulnerability. The more honest you are about your experience without trying to look cute or clever, like the more just gut-wrenchingly honest you are, that's what people, women in particular, like that's what people resonate with. That's when someone says, oh my God, because stand-up is meant to be consumed in the dark with alcohol. Because it's this like delicious, revealing, sort of sadistic thing. And when someone gets up there and they come into the light, there's a reason the audience is in the dark, and they bare their soul. They say something like, I'm getting ready for a date. I have to shave my big toe because I'm wearing sandals. Every woman in that audience is like, oh my God, I do it too. Especially, and I talk about this a lot in my new hour, especially there's so much shame around being a woman, and so much we don't tell each other, not because we're mean, but because we've been taught to be embarrassed. So when another girl gets up there and says something honest, you get to feel seen as a woman. When you know that someone else has gone through what you've gone through, it is incredibly uplifting. And we all look for reflections of ourselves in media, in other people. And some people, it's the most impactful with a comic.
But what you said translates so much further than just in comedy, that if you're just vulnerable and honest, without it being canned. And I think a lot of times now on social media, people are trying to be so honest in a way that is designed for people to feel like sorry for them. And I think that's different than what you're saying. You're saying just be truly genuine.
I'm talking about
I thought
authenticity
no,
versus
exactly.
honesty.
I also think, and commitment. Like, I remember, I've seen, when you see kids do a talent show or something, like, wait a second, I got to start again. Like, let me start again. Like, I wasn't ready. Or like, it's Cameron Diaz in that movie, My Best Friend's Wedding, when she was the worst at the karaoke, but she just committed. I think commitment gets you a really long way in life.
I think it also helps to look like Cameron Diaz. Like, people are like, oh, you accidentally ran me over. It's okay. You're stunning.
Right. No, but look, Amy Schumer's beautiful, but Cameron Diaz was a model, but Amy Schumer committed in the movie, what was I Feel Pretty, when she got up in that striptease, she committed. She was a disaster, but she committed. I'm saying, I think commitment in comedy and in life goes a long way, being just like dedicated to what you're doing. People are being similar to that on social media though, which is why I find it interesting. Like, is it being so that people, it's so immediate, so raw? Like, because you're saying right then you're exposed and it's so vulnerable. And other places people will just say something and then walk away from it because it's not so, like, the person's not right in front of you not laughing. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's so like there's no middleman. You're not just putting it up somewhere. You're not posting it. It's not in a movie. It's you and the audience right in front of you.
There's
so raw.
Literally no filter. Like,
right.
There's literally, and that's why there's different social media too. Like, Instagram is very different than TikTok, which is hyper raw, hyper honest. And they want that experience, that generation does, because I just obsessively watch both. But that's why, people are very brave in a comment section. People are very brave. It's very easy to come out and call someone a name or say they did something wrong. It's very easy to do that behind the anonymity of a handle. So that's why you can't really argue with the comment section, because who the fuck is that person? And for better or for worse, stand-up comics have the guts to say what they want to say and stand there in front of strangers. And you take that risk because you know that what you have to say, at least for me, there's an honesty and a beauty behind it. And you're coming from a good place.
Well, let's talk about comedy that lands and doesn't, and that could be the difference between cancellation and not. I mean, by many other people's definitions, Dave Chappelle would have been canceled 10 times because of the things that he is capable of saying, because he's such a wordsmith and a craftsman, and just like, probably that to me is probably the best ever. He's like amazing, a male comedian, even rivaling Eddie Murphy and Richard Dreyfuss. But other people, Michael Richards will be in a comedy club and say something and be canceled forever.
These are two very different things. I mean, just in case your audience doesn't know, we're referring to when Michael Richards, who played Kramer, couldn't handle a heckle. It was at the Laugh Factory, so I know what that crowd is. And he just went on a racist rant. He just kept saying the N-word over and over. You can say things that are un-PC, but make sure it's funny. He wasn't saying a joke. Like, you may as well just be on the street. So that happens. Like, that was just pure, you lost your cool.
I understand what you're saying. It wasn't part of an act that bombed. It wasn't part of just a criticism. That's a great note. So Dave Chappelle is saying things within a context and crafting a story.
And look, he gets faulted for saying things too. People get outraged. People are very protective over what they are. Nobody has a problem laughing at everyone else. But when it's about you, it's about women, or it's about my ethnic group or my religion, then people get very barbed. And I understand that. Without getting into specifically what Dave said, I have my own thoughts about trans jokes. And I put them up there with oven jokes. Like, I don't like them. I don't do them. I don't think they're funny. That being said, if you got a good one, okay. But I always look at intention and context, and I think we go around getting very upset without watching, without understanding those things, and people getting canceled left and right. The market dictates.
The market exactly. I've said things right now that a year ago I would have gotten destroyed for. I did get destroyed, and then said the same thing a year later. Timing, the tides, where people are. I think we're coming out of a time of hyper sensitivity and entering a time of truth right now. I feel like there's a lot of truth telling right now, and people would rather see warts and all and unfiltered than saccharine, fear-based bullshit. Like,
I think it's I gotta be like, I believe in an overcorrect. So I'm okay with what has happened, because for so long, it was just so unacceptable the way women were treated. conversation about people of color, things like that, gay, like certain words and slurs. I like that these people, that we have a voice, it was heard. But now as we come back to something in the middle, you know, this outrage culture, you always have to look at who is outraged. And I always joke, because I was going to make a TikTok about this. And I talk about this. I did a Netflix taping. White people are always trying to outwoke each other, hoping that like a black person will be like, wow, she gets it. You're not going to get a gold star. So you as a white woman flipping the fuck out about being anti-racist on another white woman, it's just do the work, do the real voting, have the real conversations. But a lot of it, I call it performative ethics. And this is not just white women. I'm just giving an example. It's rarely about correction and education. And it's always about burning someone and canceling someone. It would be delicious for one of your followers to find you and be like, Bethenny Frankel said this about so-and-so. Let's watch her burn, versus privately DMing you like, hey, Bethenny, you said this one thing. I just want to let you know this affects these people. But nobody does that.
Just say sorry. Everyone say, I'm sorry. I fucked up. I did something wrong. Tell me when I did something wrong.
But also, by the way, you notice none of this is happening in a real space. This is all happening on like Web3. Like this is all happening in the comment section of an app. Nobody has the balls to see this person and say something to them in person, because people are gutless and bored and on the toilet. That's what this is. It's easy to try to cancel someone because, well, I didn't like her and she offended me this one time, so she should burn. Because people are unhappy.
I agree. No, but it's Schadenfreude. I agree. If I want to be doing that, I agree. And and it's like a host and parasites that when you do something wrong, all the parasites like flee to the host to like suck off the blood, and like,
literally
that's the moment.
All you have to do is either give it no oxygen or post something else, and the angry mob will pick up their pitchforks and they will go try to eat each other.
Yes, like, there's a timing to it, because you can poke the bear, but it's
ephemeral. You
have to let it fucking breathe for a second too. It's insane when it happens, and you think it's real, and it's usually not real, and brands are scared, and it gets to be this crazy thing. But so what percentage of your life and creativity are you a little afraid? Like, how much do you have to hold back? There's no way. I can't speak for you. You saying every single thing that comes to your mind, you say it? No, so
but I do think I think it's not even about, I'm not good at math, so it's not about quantifying as much as when I have a thought, like what's the kernel of that thought? And then how do we contextualize it so that what I'm saying can be misconstrued the least? You know, what's the right way to do this? Who do we talk to in this joke? What words do we choose? And that is when we get to the craft of stand-up and of comedy, whether it's comedy writing too, versus just being the funny friend. Because I'm not a fan of like, oh, I have no filter, I just say whatever. It's like, no, this is a craft. Like there's a reason you laugh at a joke, and it's not an accident. It was the words chosen, the numbers chosen. Like there is an alchemy to this.
No, yeah, of course.
And so when you're making these points, you know, you can make a sloppy political point, or you can really hone in. Like the bad pitch is what I was talking about with the woke stuff. I'm like, it's a woke off. It's about being scared that you will be called racist. Sometimes it's not even about doing the work. It's just nobody wants to look bad, you know? So just being specific with your words.
Well, that's, by the way, in every business meeting, in every deal. The truth is, I have said things that could easily be said in another way. You just didn't catch it. You could get the same exact point across, and not everything needs to be said. Sometimes something's just bugging me, and I know that I'm going to get slapped a little for it, but I want to say it. But how am I going to say it? You know, so I think that's important too.
It's also, you know, you're a woman, so whatever you say or don't say can and will be used against you. And so, look, you take in all this stuff. I write about this endlessly. You can't let it drive you crazy. You know, people could look at this conversation and be like, they're two women, they're talking too fast. You know, at the end of the day, we all just do our best, and we all forget that other people are doing their best when we're judging them. And so it really is like, how do you just like feel okay about yourself when you're not being told by others you're doing a good job? I don't have that answer. I feel bad a lot of time, but you're just doing your best, you know?
Well, yeah, in the words of Kathy Griffin, you can't be who you're not. But social media, you nodded when I said it's not for therapy. Have you noticed what I've noticed? We see people really emoting, and I'm going through a really hard time right now. Like, this is the worst it's ever been. This is my low. And I'm like, why are you like, you're calling me when this is your low? We don't know each other that
well.
I
think there is that vulnerability, and like, I can't talk to the people around me, so I'm just going to share with strangers, because there is that lighter side where like strangers will give you that positivity. Your mother's going to say,
that's dangerous. That's a dangerous game.
What's dangerous also is, and I talk about this, I have a chapter in my book called Everything is a Scam.
Oh my God, I say all the time, everything's a scam. That's hysterical. That's all we say all day. It's a scam.
Well, you're a New Yorker, and I'm from New York, but I was raised in Dallas, Texas, but I have that very East Coast. Everything's a scam. I just had to talk to my assistant who bought me travel insurance. I'm like, what is this $800? Scam. And she was like, scam. I didn't know. I'm like, you're just a baby. It's a scam. You know, we all want to help. I actually donated a lot to your charity, because you were doing a lot of like boots on the ground work in Ukraine. So I reposted your charity because like, I don't know you, but I was like, I know her. I trust her. I know Paul.
Thank you.
So I did, but I was like, I know that's not a scam. But a lot of times people post and like your heart hurts and you're like, I want to help. And then you're like, how do I know this person's real? How do I know this is going to the right thing? How do I know this is not a bullshit charity? And so people are constantly reaching out, and you're like, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's that I think you might be lying to me. And hardens
I love
us.
that you're saying that, because in philanthropy, it is the most scam-ridden place ever. And it's a lot of celebrities posting links directing to other people that are controlling the entire charity. And they just post the link because it looks good with a cute picture of a koala with oil on it, from a spill.
Then you get dinged, for how you participate and how you don't. So I post something. I'm like, help the people of, let's say, Ukraine. Oh my God. So you don't care about these and these people. Oh, you didn't do this. And you're just like, or then you do still have a business. I have a platform to talk about this because of comedy. So we do have to get back to that. So you post. And the next day it's like, where's your posting about that?
By the way, beyond, like, it makes us all have to be doing what we think we're supposed to be doing,
right,
versus what we're actually passionate about doing. Like, on the same day, let's say a week, I could raise $1 million in a week with Ukraine, but also put on hair, makeup, and eyelashes and sit down and do this podcast, and also do something, bank some superficial content. Now, I may not post the superficial content that I'm banking, because I know that that's like quote unquote tone deaf. But why? I'm a mother and I work. I have Hermes bags and I send relief to Ukraine.
Right. Like, it's not like you're live streaming yourself from a funeral. Like, you have a sense of decorum and you are a multifaceted person. And moreover, this is what is required of us in order to have the platform so that we can be judged. And so I always take it with a grain of salt, and I usually just ignore those people. But I even talk about in my book how it's why you can't live for other people.
Facts. Because the truth is, I talked about the luxury giveaway scams and it was the week that the Ukraine war broke out. And for me, I was looking at Ukraine. So when I saw the Kim Kardashian $1 million in Hermes and Gucci boxes, I was like, what the fuck? But she's doing what she does. She got paid probably $1 million or $20 million, and she's doing what she does.
I don't know.
About Ukraine.
Not to pile on, I do think that family could stand to do a little bit more public facing. But they could be.
Then it's for the wrong reason. Then it's bullshit. Then
for sure.
Like, I'm
and
doing
by the way,
rinse.
I don't know. They could be donating millions of dollars to like help the sea turtles, and I have no idea. I doubt it. You tend to know those things. I don't know. Right. People who have a lot of money tend to be very quiet about how they donate these things, because then everyone wants their money. I am here in Martha's Vineyard. I am seeing that everywhere. So I guess at the end of the day, the lesson is, if you want to hate someone, do it privately from a burner Instagram account and just watch them at night, gnawing on your knuckles like I do. But at the end of the day, you just don't know if someone's evil or good. You don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. But I think it goes back to that whole theme of you figuring out how to say things. And in order to do what you do and still have a career, you have to figure out how the delivery is going to be.
I also think, there's the way that you say it. And then our audiences are very afraid now. So there's certain buzzwords that you say. Like I said, Israel. I don't remember what I was talking about. I said Israel and the crowd went silent. And I called them out. I was like, oh, so we can't even say the word Israel because you've been taught.
Cancer.
If you say black, they go, oh my God. I'm like, so we can't say the color black. There is a beauty in calling it out, and people realize, oh my God, my sphincter was clenched. And then we can all come together. So there are levels to it. It's not about.
You're walking into a landmine. Sometimes you don't know. For example, I talked very publicly about the Kardashians. I wanted to for a long time. I will even use the word I was afraid to do it. I was cautious about doing it. And the piñata opened up and the candy came out and I was shocked. You'll be shocked with no backlash. Think about the reach. Think about the followers. I know a lot of them are bought. I was shocked that no one came in. 1 out of 10,000 comments would be like, "Oh, women not supporting women," but nobody was having a problem with it. And if I said anything about when I've said anything about anybody else, people come. I thought that was interesting.
Right. What always bothers me about the women not supporting women comment is it reduces us down to a simple gender, and it takes away our complexity. And so, yeah, a lot of times it is, I don't believe in blindly supporting someone based on their chromosomes, but
That's
I also don't believe, I agree with you, but I don't believe on hurting them because of it. I'm a competitive person. I want to do better than that man and that woman. I've never seen that as gender. So when someone's like, you didn't support a woman, I'm like, was she funny? Why would I support a person?
No, but what if you don't support that? What, like, I have spent more time on Kelly Ripa's book this week than my own book. I did it because I really care about her. Like, we have a good relationship, and I support that woman.
Of course,
but I do not support all women. That is a fact.
You don't support all people. That's fully insane.
I don't support all dogs.
You're
either.
not. No, some are too wiry. But I think I was actually thinking about this the other day. My friend Rebecca Searle is like a New York Times best-selling author. She writes sort of like young adult, like romantic, not young adult, just like romantic fiction. It's really fun, and she does really well. And I always see her books because I'm always in an airport. I always see her books, and I actually get very proud and excited. Like, there is nothing like when you're a woman and you have a friend that you genuinely only want to see succeed, and you actually are their cheerleader versus, and I talk about this in my new hour, this glitterized pro girl lingo.
Oh, go girl bot. I was like, I'm not a girl bot. What does that even mean? I don't like that. It's like,
it's all this like weak hand job. Like, look, empowering women. No, you know what empowers women? Equal pay, education, pay gap closing. And so there is something too, we are called upon to like blindly just like love all of our mama sister bears. And it's like, we all have those women in our lives that we love and just cannot wait to see thrive. And it's so fun to watch that. And that's what real strength feels like. And you don't have a ton of that. And that has nothing to do with who you are. It's just not everybody is quality. And not everybody is worth championing, and you can't spend your days doing that.
I'm fine with saying I do not. I support the women and men that I support, and that's my own body, and my own choice.
Of male comics ask me for help, and I'm like, I can't do it. I don't believe in your comedy.
No, I agree, and you and I very much. We could go on for days about this, but we both are the same. Whenever someone says, "What's it been like being in business as a woman?" and I'm not saying I know I'm white, and I know I'm privileged. I'm saying that I've had to deconstruct it, thinking about how men have mansplained me, but I never knew that word, and I never even knew what it meant. I've had to recently, since I'm asked the question 1,000 times, I thought to myself, what? And then when a guy talks to me like I'm a junior player, even though we're in the same position, it's something we've been trained to just accept and don't realize that like that's been happening forever, even if it's not so overt. Mm-hmm. But when asked that question, I was like, I never thought about being a woman or a man. I just plowed through, and I was like, I'm a strong woman. Yes. Like I'm a strong person. I'm a strong business person. I'm an entrepreneur. I can take on any man in any arena. I don't care if I'm a woman or a man. That's just me. It doesn't mean that there aren't
No, I don't
traits
think it's
that
just
I have,
you. I think this is something, I mean, I feel the exact same way, which is why I've been trying to be friends with you for a very long time. Fine. And I was talking to my mom about it. There is this premium we place now on the female struggle. Like, my mom was a single mom, and I'll tell you what, my mom was a single mom for a period. And I'm a very strong-minded individual. The word feminism had never come up it just wasn't talked about in the 90s. But moreover, I never heard my mother say anything like any of this, like rah feminism, go girl, any of that stuff. She just did, because when you're actually working and surviving and doing things, you don't have time to talk about mama.
It's not a bumper sticker.
You're just doing it.
It's not exactly.
And so she's this, like, she's a New Yorker. She's very blunt. She's very like, not in a rude way. She's just tough. She just gets it. And that's how I am. And it's only when I got into comedy and it's only in LA and it's in show business that you have to answer for the way that you always were. how did you get into comedy? Were you a funny woman in comedy? I'm like, I just did it because no one said I couldn't and no one said I could. And I didn't think about it and I just went. And now I have to contextualize it like I'm some fierce diva.
That's exactly about I was some genius because I entered into cocktails. Well, I didn't fucking know anything. I walked into a store and saw 1,000. I was like, why am I doing this now? I didn't know there was no low calorie. I didn't know there was no nothing. I didn't know liquor was run by men.
I never,
you didn't know. Yeah.
You didn't know what you didn't know, which is a gift.
Right.
But like, I never mattered enough to anyone for anyone to tell me I sucked. And I never mattered enough for anyone to say, go do it. My mom was super cool, but like, and I think when that, it's just something you're born with. Like, you're like, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to work. Yes. I'm just going to do it.
Yes, but also it's funny that you just said you didn't matter enough. Right. Did you have a mentor? What's a mentor? I didn't know what a mentor was. I would know to look for a mentor. No one would want to mentor me. It was like, that's lingo that we make up to frame what's happened. That's exactly what you just said. That's exactly it. Like now I'm supposed to come up with the best thing to say about female work-life balance. I don't fucking know. I do everything I do very well. That's all that I know in the moment that
and not only that, I mean, that's a skill in and of itself. Like, stand-up it's a solo sport. If you're a writer, like if you're on a TV show, you're going to be with people, if you're an actor, but like it is you in the Delta Lounge, if you're lucky, it is you on a regional flight. It is you in a hotel and and you have a community, you've got the friends. But when I started I didn't know anyone. No. And I'm not saying this out of bitterness. There was no woman who like reached out to me to be like, I want to help you. Because
no way.
It is a competitive, we say no way. I mean, it happens. But you're on your own on a regional flight in Regina, Saskatchewan. How is someone going to reach you? Like you're doing it.
No, and you're alone. And when you bomb alone, you bomb alone.
When you die alone.
Yeah. No, but it's true. When you sign the paper, it's your name. There's all these other people around here and they have all these decisions they want to make. But I'm always like, it's my fucking ass. I'm alone and you're alone on a plane and on the stage.
It's funny you say that. Like I was talking with my team. We were talking about a show and there was an issue with ticketing and it was not my fault, but people don't see that. They see it as your fault. Like, why isn't this link working? I'm like, we pay a heavy fee. You do too for this link. And I was explaining to them, there was a show I wanted to cancel. I was like, we've moved this now twice. I look bad. Not my team, not anyone. I, as the artist, people get angry at me and I can't have that. Yeah. People don't think about, this is your blood, sweat, tears, and reputation. If people don't expect a quality product, then what do you have? You have to have that consistency.
I'm saying, and I give him a lot of shit, but Kylie Jenner had this like bathing suit where someone's whole entire vagina was sticking out. I highly doubt she was in China sewing the bathing suit. So as a 19-year-old girl, she's responsible because it's her name on it, but it's her name and it's her vagina on the line, but it's not technically her that sewed the bathing suits.
For sure. But wouldn't it be delicious to watch someone like that crumble? I mean, that's the whole ethos of our society.
Exactly.
People would love to see you knocked down. People would love, I have not watched Real Housewives in over a decade, but when I did watch it, even before you were at the height you're at now, I remember thinking, this woman doesn't belong here. I remember watching you and thinking, she's a legitimate business mind. Like, you happen to be on the show, which is, I get the PR, but I was just like, this is a real person with a real brain, not your husband's money, making a lotion company, not a fake fashion show. And then you'd say stuff. This is from forever ago and I feel weird to bring up, but there was something, you were on a trip, one of those like forced work trips they make you go on with these other women and everyone wears espadrilles and someone was tired and you just went like, then go to sleep.
Oh, the Kelly, go to sleep. That's an iconic scene.
As a New York-hearted person, it's like that thing where you're like, you don't like something? Then fucking fix it. Like, stop making this your identity. And I was reminded of Go to Sleep when I had my baby. We weren't giving her, I don't know. She's in the other room. She's with the nanny and she's crying. And my mom comes out of the guest room. She goes, give her a pacifier. It's so obvious. And I'm like, do we? I don't know.
That's really funny.
Oh
my God. Well, you're very interesting and really nice to talk to. Like,
were you
funny.
About to say funny and then you said interesting?
No, because we know you're funny, and that's like someone saying to like Angelina Jolie, "You're pretty." Like, we know, like you know what I mean. You are. You know what I mean. You're not just a funny face.
Thank you. And
you're not just another funny face.
Thank you.
No, you are. You haven't. You have a strong perspective, and I did not know we'd agree on so many things and things you said.
I did.
I literally said.
I knew.
Okay.
I know
All
you.
right. Well, I say it's a fucking scam every day, all day, and I'm going to send you scams because it's a scam.
Okay.
But hopefully you don't think this podcast is a scam because it's literally a garage band that for the first year I didn't make $1. I didn't even understand the medium, but I love doing this. So you were really fun.
Thank you for having me, and I will send you a copy of All Things Aside.
Yeah, there's only one question that I ask everyone. What's your rose and your thorn of your career?
Oh my God. There's more roses than thorns, and even the thorns, like travel, you learn to appreciate because it's good to get your blood circulating when it pricks you. I think the rose is, of the many roses, I will say this one, being able from your brain to come up with something that turns into a currency. Like we have a house. I have had houses because of a joke about a goblin that I thought of,
Wow.
like it's not, I didn't make something physically. Like it was just a funny thought I had, a funny turd that I polished. And taking that and being able to travel the world. Like I'm about to go on my second Asia tour. So walking into a room in like Kuala Lumpur and all these Asians in hijabs are looking at you and they are laughing at your jokes and we are not from the same world. It is the most gratifying thing. And so within that, having a context for my country, because we are so divided and it is so easy where you live to write off the rest of the country as fully insane, to get to see the country, have an understanding of what people go through, and to realize there are good people everywhere and not everybody looks the same. And it's not as simple as the news would make it. So I still do love America, even though we are a little battered and beaten. And so getting that working context for my country and an actual knowledge versus just the bubble that I live in. I love that.
Nice.
And
that's nice.
The thorn is the fact that somebody had a liquid bomb 20 years ago and we still can't take liquids on planes. The thorn is other people's rules.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And my rose is that you have a seahorse. You'll always have a seahorse behind you on this podcast.
At this rental property in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, thank you, Iliza. We got your book, we got it all in, but I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bethenny. This was great.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Amazing. Have a good day.